Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. And yes, I just got a new car, an Audi RS3. I still cannot believe that this thing is mine. This spec, if I say so myself, is absolutely gorgeous. And this is quite a special paint, which I'll get into later. So for many people that know me, and also I might have said it on the channel a couple of times, but for the longest time, I wanted to have a BMW M2, specifically an F87 2018 with a manual with a sunroof. Not easy to find. I did not like the S55 sound. I just never thought it sounded good. The N55 with a single turbo sounds amazing. And I wanted one for the longest time. And I've driven a couple. I even actually drove one on the Nürburgring Nordschleife, which was an amazing experience. But I hadn't driven one in a while since then, which was almost 3 years ago. And after moving to LA, I obviously, there's a lot more traffic. Having a manual, it's not that it doesn't make sense, but it's just not worth the sacrifice. And so the RS3 kind of popped up in my head because I wanted to do a lot of modifications to the M2, like vinyl wrap it, put wheels on it, do some performance modifications, buy a full IPE exhaust for the car, and those modifications were very, very expensive. And I'm like, wait a minute, well, the RS3, the newer one, costs a lot more, but there's less modifications I want to do to it, meaning that the cost is not as different as I thought. And so I said, you know what, let me test drive one. So Audi of Beverly Hills, back in mid-December, had a yellow one for sale, a 2024 car. And so then I test drove it, and the engine alone made me fall in love with this car. The engine in this car is a masterpiece. It is such a great engine. And I said, okay, wow, I think this actually would be a better buy, especially in LA, because it just drives like a normal Audi A3 if you have it in comfort mode. So after driving the RS3, I said, okay, I need to drive an M2 again. So I actually happened to find one for sale in Glendale. It was a 2018 car, blue with a manual transmission. And when I drove that, I kind of fell out of love with the car. It's of course a fun car. It's very tail happy, but the interior, I've been wanting one for so long. The interior now is starting to look a little bit more dated. It's not bad or anything. And the manual transmission was just not the best. I think I'm a bit spoiled because I'm used to driving my dad's 911 mostly, and that is a 911, so Porsche's transmissions are some of the best out there. This shifter just felt a little bit rubbery. The throws I felt like were a little too long. And on top of that, to me, I didn't like how the clutch was, and it was not worth the sacrifice to have a manual in LA. And I'd driven the DCT. It's not very smooth either. And I just tended to gravitate towards the RS3. And so I changed my mind, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be getting an RS3, which was crazy. And everyone I told, they were like, oh wow, because I've been wanting M2 for a long time. But I've had it for about 2 weeks, and I am incredibly satisfied with my purchase. Absolutely zero regrets. So let's talk about the specs of this car. It has a 2.5 liter inline 5-cylinder that makes 400 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque, fitted to an all-wheel drive system, which is a Holodex all-wheel drive system, which is similar to what you'll find in the Golf R. I'll start explaining that a little bit later. But this thing is quick. 0 to 60, I think, is like 3.7 seconds. It feels that fast because I've done launch control in this thing, and it's absolutely nuts. And this car, man, it is just the best daily driver. So the RS3, you could get a bunch of different options and colors. The original car that I wanted was a turbo blue car with at least the the executive package, which gives you the Bang & Olufsen sound system and stuff, and maybe a carbon pack. And then this popped up, and I remember looking at it, and I'm like, the lighting is really weird. I was like, this doesn't look like turbo blue. It looks completely different. Maybe their lighting's off. And then I actually looked, and it's called Nogaro blue. And Nogaro blue is a very special color to Audi because it was on the original RS car, the RS2. I think at the time it was called RS blue, then renamed to Nogaro blue, but the paint code is exactly the same. And as soon as I found out about that, that made me gravitate to this car more. And even though turbo blue is a beautiful color, I always thought it was a little too light of a shade of blue for my preference. I wanted something a little bit of a darker shade, and well, this is it. So I actually preferred this even if this color had no significance at all. But you do pay for it, because the MSRP on this car was absolutely insane. This thing has every single option, and the most expensive one was this color new. It was $5,900, pretty much close to $6,000 for this paint. And I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous, if I say so myself. Unlike turbo blue, this is a metallic, so you can kind of see the metallic flake in it. Yeah, I absolutely love this color. This has every single, pretty much as fully loaded as it gets. It has $20,000 in options total. This car, even, I think the base price was around $60,000. This car had an $81,000 sticker back in 2023, which is just absolutely insane. So this car was on the market for a long time. It was listed for sale in around mid-December, and when they listed it for $75,000, which is absurd. It was more than any other RS3 on the market, even ones that were as fully loaded as this one was, and even the 2025 cars. Like, it was the most expensive one. And as special of a spec that this thing is, there was a turbo blue one back in December that had every single option except for the paint. It was about a $75,000 sticker, and it sold for $60K. So I'm like, these guys are overpricing this thing drastically. It was at least like $10,000 above what they should have been asking for in the first place. And so when I called them about it, I said, this is gonna stay on your lot for a while. I bought this in mid-February, so 2 months. And I'll talk about the price decreases in a second. But there was this one car that I was like, all right, well, this thing's I'm not sure when it will sell. It might sell for too much. So I found this beautiful turbo blue car in Henderson, tried to negotiate, certified pre-owned. They weren't really negotiating much. And I was like, you know what, let me call them back in a couple days and change my offer. And it sold. And I was so devastated and gutted. I was like, genuinely, it ruined my week, because I was really excited to get that car. But I'm like, you know what, maybe it wasn't meant to be. And then I kept seeing this thing decreasing, and it decreased to about $64,900. I called them, and I managed to pay $64,000 flat for this car. More than I wanted to spend, but I mean, it is such a special car, and I have zero regrets. So yeah, it was not cheap, but at least I got $11,000 off what they were originally asking, which is insane. So now I'm going to give you guys a tour around the car a little bit. So this car has the black optics package, which gives you like the blacked out badges and the black wheels instead of those diamond cut ones, which I always thought looked a little bit weird on this car. One of the other options this has is the Dynamic Plus package, which gives you these humongous 6-piston carbon ceramic brakes in the front only and not the back. I mean, this car doesn't really need carbon ceramics. If I was optioning one new, I wouldn't bother, but it was done. There's also Pirelli P0 Trofeo R tires. These are pretty much like the Pirelli's equivalent to the Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 Rs. And these are really sticky tires. You can see the tread. There's not a lot of tread on there. The package that you get this also gives you a raised top speed to 180 miles an hour, and it gives you a carbon fiber engine cover, which I'll show you guys later. The other thing that it has is the carbon pack. So it includes the door mirrors, the side sills, and this rear spoiler. All OEM, which I really like a lot. They deselected the black roof option, which I think was a mistake, because this whole thing here is the sunroof, and this is another glass panel. This is all black, and then it's just blue with a black antenna. So this is going to be vinyl wrapped black at some point, because it will just look more cohesive. Obviously, we've talked about the color. One of my favorite things about the car is this vent right here. I think it is functional. It looks awesome, and it creates this stance that this car has, especially in certain lightings, and it is just so cool. And believe it or not, the RS3 is one of the few cars out there that has a reverse staggered wheel setup. So the front tires are actually wider than the rear tires. The front tires are 265 and the rear tires are 245, and for context, these wheels are 19 inches. So now that I'm talking about that, this was one of the ways that Audi tried to mitigate understeer in the car. One other thing that they have is this clever rear differential. So it can send 50% of the power to the rear wheels, similar to how the Golf R does it, but it also has this mode called torque rear, where you can send 100% of that 50% to each individual wheel. It definitely feels not quite as natural as like a rear wheel drive car, but this thing barely understeers. Especially with these tires, this thing has no understeer at all, and it just grips and is incredibly impressive considering what I've heard about the previous generation with bad understeer. One of my favorite things that Audi does are the lights. When you unlock the car, it just does this cool light show. I always thought that looked really cool. Now, one thing that Audi does do, it was only on the pre-facelift. This right here, when it's on as a daytime running light, it looks like a checkered flag. But when I unlock the car, it's going to spell out RS3. So, you see right there. RS3. Okay, so it's a different day. I've got a little bit of light left, so I wanted to show you the interior. The lights do this really cool show when you unlock the door. So I'll show you from the back. Unlock it, and they do this really cool show, which I think is pretty unnecessary, but I think it's sick. So let me show you guys the interior. So you have RS puddle lights, illuminated RS3 door sills. Is that an M6? Yep, it is. You first off have this absolutely beautiful quilting on the seats with this red stitching. When you step inside, it greets you. Usually, in this case, it will say whatever name you configured. In this case, it says, "Hi, Spencer." We'll shut the door here. I'm using a wider lens. Then, you start it up. The mirrors fold out. It is a beautiful interior. So this is quite a beautiful interior. You have some ambient lighting under here with some Alcantara. You have some ambient lighting here. Ambient lighting here as well, down here. There's not too much, but there's the right amount. There's some on the feet over there. This interior, to me, is just the perfect blend of being decently modern, but without doing any of the stupid stuff where you have to have climate control through the infotainment system and stuff like that. So I'm going to turn on the lights here so you can see the interior a little bit better. But we have some, I don't know if this is real or not, carbon looking trim here. This I hate. This gloss black thing here, you can see there's fingerprints, there's scratches on it. Unless if the car's brand new, that's what you're going to keep seeing. It's really, really annoying. Don't like that. There's definitely a panel that you can replace it with. I'm going to be doing that at some point. You have the shifter here. It's a cute little shifter. You put your foot on the brake, you push it down into drive, one's up for neutral, one's up for reverse. Camera pops up, and you push P to park. There was actually a time right when I first got this car. I'm going to unplug my radar detector because this is so fucking annoying. Yeah, and I'm going to get this hardwired soon as well, so this wire here is not going to be like this for much longer. I was in drive one time, and if I forgot to push P when I turned off the car, and it automatically put it into park, which I think is a very good safety feature. I like that a lot. So over here we have this RS steering wheel. It's a round wheel, so no flat bottom design. I know in Europe you could get the flat bottom wheel, which looked like the previous gen wheel, which I loved how it looked. This wheel is still pretty nice.
The current one in the facelifted of this car, I hate how that steering wheel looks. I hate the logo. It has haptic buttons. Here you have buttons here to change some stuff in the digital cockpit. It is just so customizable and it is beautiful. The display is crystal clear. You can see full navigation and stuff. I think that's really cool. You have to like get a membership to get Google Earth or whatever. I'm not gonna bother with that, but I think that's really cool. Interesting door panel design. You got window switches. These are the child lock switches, which is absolutely brilliant. Love that feature. Seat memory, light controls here. Paddles they feel okay. There's a volume here, which is amazing because this is how you turn up the volume. You operate it like an old click wheel on an iPod. Just horrible design. And then you click each way to mute or power it off or to the next track. It's just annoying, especially if you're a passenger. That and this are really the only two complaints I have about this interior. You do have some cheaper feeling materials, like this is decently soft touch. This is cheap plastic. This is like decently soft touch. Then you have Alcantara, so you have like really cheap next to nice. The leather seats are so comfortable. This is a beautiful Napa leather. I absolutely love these seats. The only thing I wish they were cooled. And the Golf R, which this is based off of the Golf platform, you could get with cooled seats. So a car that retails for $81,000 as this one is, and you can't get cooled seats, I think that's kind of ridiculous. But it's got heated seats, no heated steering wheel. As I said, there's hard buttons here for your climate, heated seats, defrost. It's just so easy to use. It's very well integrated. You have buttons down here, and there's some blank switches, which I don't understand why. Then you also have the air vent design's kind of unique. So you have these two air vents up on top here. Definitely Lamborghini Urus inspired. I actually like this because I can point it right at my face. Then you got the vents over here like this. You have cup holders here, cigarette lighter, 12-volt outlet, parking brake. This center console is interesting. So you can move it back and forth, right, which is fine. But you really can't fit much in there because this thing intrudes in on the space. So it's not the most practical armrest. You have the door panel here, Bang & Olufsen sound system as an upgrade. The infotainment system itself is decently easy to use. It's not the newest, but it really does the job, and it has Apple CarPlay, which is what I like. One other thing I wanted to show you guys is the back seat. So you got Alcantara ambient lighting, really cheap, plastic up here. Same beautiful quilting. I'm 5'8", and this is the room that I have. Headroom is, I'm brushing my head up against the ceiling a little bit here. So not the most practical, but that's kind of to be expected. Individual air vents, and you can change the temperature with this little knob here. Over here, we've got a center console with cup holders. Nothing too special or exciting back here, but I think this is the perfect interior. I wish you could get a little bit more like color. I know in Europe you can get this in red, I believe, and I've seen them in green as well. This little thing is Alcantara. But overall, I love this interior, and it's definitely an upgrade from my Mazda 3's interior. Okay, everybody, that about does it for today's video. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.